The ordinary person you are tempted to dismiss today may reveal what your faith has become more clearly than your longest prayer. The cashier is moving slowly, and you are already late. An older man is trying to finish a sentence, while your eyes keep drifting toward the door. A coworker makes the same mistake again. A child interrupts the thought you were trying to hold on to. Someone is cleaning the room, and everyone speaks around her as if she is part of the furniture. Nothing dramatic is happening. No music rises. No sign appears in the sky. But your faith is not revealed only by the way you speak to God. It is also revealed by the way you speak to people who cannot improve your reputation, advance your plans, or give you anything in return. That is why some of the most important spiritual moments in your life may look completely ordinary. In the next few minutes, you are going to see why small encounters can carry great spiritual meaning, which kind of person exposes the condition of your heart most quickly, how hurry and pride make human beings disappear, and how to remain kind without becoming naive, unsafe, or available to everyone. Because there is a difference between compassion and surrendering your boundaries. There is a difference between honoring a person and giving that person access to your life. And there is a difference between looking polite and actually becoming loving. Imagine a man named Daniel walking into a coffee shop on a morning when everything has already gone wrong. He woke up late. Traffic was worse than usual. His phone had 3 messages marked urgent. He has an important meeting in 20 minutes, and he is rehearsing what he needs to say while standing in line. When he finally reaches the counter, the young woman taking his order looks exhausted. She enters the wrong size. Then she forgets the extra shot he requested. Daniel feels the irritation rise before he has time to think. He could say, "How hard is it to get one order right?" He could make the people behind him uncomfortable. He could turn a mistake that costs him less than a minute into a memory of humiliation that stays with her all day. For a moment, he wants to. Then he notices her hands trembling as she corrects the order. He does not suddenly become perfectly calm. He is still late. He is still frustrated. But he lowers his voice and says, "It's okay. I know you're busy. Could you just fix this part for me?" That is all. He does not give a speech. He does not tell anyone about it later. He does not become her rescuer. He simply refuses to use his frustration as permission to reduce another person. Small encounters expose the heart because they arrive before we have time to arrange a spiritual image. When you know you are being watched, you can prepare to look patient. When you are standing in church, you can remember the right language. When the moment feels important, you can rise to it. But when the interruption seems insignificant, when the person has no influence, and when no one will praise you, your unedited heart often speaks first. This is not meant to make you afraid of every reaction. You are human. You will get tired. You will become impatient. You will sometimes answer with a tone you regret. Maturity is not pretending those moments never happen. Maturity is learning to notice them sooner, repair them faster, and let them teach you who you are becoming. Here is a simple practice you can use today. Before you respond to a minor mistake, pause long enough to ask, "Do I need to correct this person, or am I about to punish them for the pressure I was already carrying?" Sometimes correction is necessary. Sometimes you need to say that the order is wrong, the work is incomplete, or the behavior cannot continue. But correction and humiliation are not the same thing. You can be clear without becoming cruel. You can be disappointed without making someone feel worthless. And you can protect your time without acting as though your time makes you more valuable than the person in front of you. Jesus repeatedly brought attention to people others overlooked. He noticed the sick person the crowd treated like an interruption. He welcomed children when others considered them a distraction. He spoke with people whose social position made them easy to dismiss. The point was not that every interruption had to control his day. The point was that status did not determine human worth. You are not required to stop for every request, solve every problem, or accept every demand. But even when the answer is no, the way you give that answer reveals something. A respectful no can contain more love than a resentful yes. A clear boundary can preserve more dignity than false kindness, followed by hidden anger. And sometimes the most faithful response is not, "I will do everything you want." Sometimes it is, "I cannot do that, but I will not treat you with contempt." Many people imagine that their greatest spiritual test will be dramatic. They picture a public sacrifice, a courageous decision, or a moment when everyone can see what they believe. But character is often formed in places that will never become part of your testimony. It is formed when you wait without making the slower person feel ashamed. It is formed when you listen for 30 seconds without reaching for your phone. It is formed when you have enough power to embarrass someone and choose not to. It is formed when you remember the name of the person everyone else calls only by a job title. The people around you may forget the exact words you used, but they often remember what your tone made them feel. And now we come to the kind of person who reveals the truth about your faith faster than almost anyone else. It is the person who has nothing you want, not the person who can recommend you, promote you, invite you, repay you, or make you look generous. The person with little power exposes whether your kindness is love or strategy. Strategic kindness appears when the right people enter the room. It becomes attentive around authority. It smiles when there is a possible reward. It gives when giving can be seen. But when the person is socially invisible, inconvenient, poor, elderly, awkward, or unable to return the favor, strategic kindness quietly disappears. Real kindness is different. It does not require an audience. It does not need to turn every act into a story about the person who performed it. It protects dignity even when there is no social benefit. This is why the teaching of Jesus in Matthew 25 is so confronting. He connected the way people responded to the hungry, the stranger, the sick, and the forgotten with the seriousness of their relationship with Him. He was not teaching that every vulnerable person is literally God. He was showing that our treatment of those with little power matters deeply before God. You cannot separate devotion from the way you use power. You cannot praise mercy in public while practicing contempt toward people who cannot defend themselves. And you cannot claim to love God while training your heart to ignore human need whenever there is no reward. That does not mean you must meet every need you see. No human being can do that. It means the vulnerable are not spiritually irrelevant simply because they cannot benefit you. Sometimes the most honest question is not, "Was I nice?" It is, "Would I have spoken the same way if this person had more power than I do?" That question can uncover things. Politeness hides. A restaurant guest speaks gently to the owner and harshly to the server. A manager is patient with a client and dismissive toward an assistant. A person smiles at the pastor, then humiliates a family member in the car. A customer demands respect while offering none. The difference reveals the motive. The way you respond to weakness shows what power is doing inside your heart. Grace would have agreed with all of this. She was sincere, responsible, and deeply involved in her church. She prayed in the morning before checking her phone. She knew Scripture well enough to comfort friends when they were struggling. People described her as dependable, and they were right. But Grace had one weakness she rarely noticed. She treated interruptions as threats. Her life was organized around responsibilities, deadlines, and people who depended on her. She carried a full schedule because she believed being useful was part of being faithful. Most days, usefulness became urgency, and urgency made every unplanned person feel like a problem. One afternoon, Grace was walking through a grocery store parking lot on the way to an appointment. She was already calculating how many minutes she had lost. Near the entrance, an older woman dropped a small bag. Nothing spilled far. A few items rolled near the curb. Grace helped pick them up quickly. The woman smiled and began to say, "Thank you. My husband used to." Grace looked at her watch. "I'm sorry, I really have to go," she said, already stepping away. Her words were not insulting. Her tone was not openly cruel. She had helped. She had somewhere legitimate to be, and yet the woman's expression changed so slightly that Grace almost missed it. Almost. She continued toward her car, but the expression followed her. No tragedy occurred. The woman was not abandoned in danger. Grace did not hear a supernatural voice. She simply felt the uncomfortable honesty of her own conscience. She had treated the woman's words as less important than the 30 seconds they would have cost. For the rest of the day, Grace defended herself internally. I was late. I did help her. I cannot talk to everyone. All of those statements were true, but none of them answered the deeper question. Why had she made the woman feel like an inconvenience for trying to speak? Conviction is not the same as condemnation. Condemnation says, "You are false. You will never change." Conviction says, "Look closely. This moment is showing you something, and you can become more honest because of it." Grace did not need to punish herself. She needed to pay attention. That is one of the quiet gifts of ordinary encounters. They give you information about your heart while there is still time to grow. Hurry has a way of changing the names of people. The elderly person becomes an obstacle. The person asking for help becomes one more demand. Their humanity disappears behind the effect they are having on your schedule. Hurry itself is not always wrong. There are real emergencies, real duties, real deadlines, and people waiting for you. You do not become more spiritual by ignoring every responsibility whenever someone wants your attention. But hurry becomes dangerous when it convinces you that urgency gives you permission to stop seeing people. Ask yourself this the next time irritation rises. Is this person truly preventing me from fulfilling a responsibility, or am I acting as though my urgency makes me more important? That question does not force you to stay. It changes how you leave. You might say, "I'm sorry, I cannot talk right now, but I hope your day gets easier." You might say, "I need to go, but I heard what you said." You might take 10 seconds to look at someone instead of speaking while turning away. You might correct the mistake without making the person absorb the frustration of your entire morning. Not every interruption deserves your time. Every person still deserves to be treated as a person. The story of the Good Samaritan is powerful, partly because the wounded man had no way to improve the Samaritan's life. He was not networking. He was not impressive. He was not useful in that moment. He was lying beside the road. The story does not teach that you must personally respond to every crisis in the world. It reveals how easily religious certainty can walk around suffering while preserving a clean image. The Samaritan saw a human being before he saw an inconvenience. Compassion does not begin with solving everything. It begins with refusing to look away, simply because looking would cost you something. Still, this is where kindness becomes much harder. It is easy to be gentle when people are grateful. The real condition of the heart often appears in the presence of slowness, inconvenience, repeated mistakes, unfair accusations, and no appreciation. Anyone can sound compassionate when the other person is calm. What happens when someone misreads your intention? What happens when a coworker interrupts again? What happens when a customer speaks sharply? What happens when a relative turns every conversation into a complaint? That is where many people believe they have only two choices. They can fight back and increase the damage, or they can surrender, stay silent, and let the other person cross every limit. But there is a third response. You can be firm without becoming degrading. You can say, "I want to understand what happened, but I cannot continue this conversation while I am being insulted." You can say, "I am willing to help, but I need you to speak respectfully." You can say, "I disagree with you, and I am not going to humiliate you to prove my point." That is not weakness. It is strength that does not need contempt in order to feel powerful. A boundary can still carry mercy. You do not need to trust everyone in order to treat everyone with dignity. You do not need to keep harmful people close. You do not need to answer every message, reopen every relationship, or remain in a situation that feels unsafe. Jesus taught love of neighbor, but he did not teach unlimited access. He showed compassion, and he also withdrew. He told the truth, and he refused to be controlled by the expectations of crowds. He did not confuse mercy with becoming available to every demand. This matters because some people have been taught that kindness means enduring whatever others do. They stay in conversations that become abusive. They continue giving after resentment has replaced freedom. They believe saying no makes them selfish. They call exhaustion faithfulness and fear compassion. But love does not require you to cooperate with your own destruction. You can end a conversation without trying to destroy the other person's worth. You can protect your home, your mind, your time, and your safety while refusing to become cruel. Kindness is not the absence of a locked door. Sometimes it is the decision not to curse the person standing on the other side. Grace had to learn this too, but in a different way. She also said yes too often to people she feared disappointing. She would smile while resentment collected beneath the smile. Inside, she often felt trapped. That is the great reversal many sincere people miss. Kindness separated from discernment can become fear wearing a pleasant face. Some people are not helping because love is leading them. They are helping because rejection terrifies them. They want to protect the identity of being the good one. So they keep giving, not freely, but anxiously. The question is not only, am I being kind? The deeper question is love guiding this response, or am I afraid of what will happen if I disappoint someone? The difference may not be visible from the outside, but one acts from freedom, while the other acts from fear. One can give without losing himself. The other gives and quietly disappears. Jesus joined compassion with truth. He was merciful, but he did not organize his life around keeping everyone pleased. He could love people who misunderstood him without handing them control over his purpose. That is mature kindness. It does not ask, how can I make sure no one is ever unhappy with me? It asks, what response is loving, truthful, and wise? Sometimes the answer is, I can help in this way, but not in that way. And sometimes the answer is silence, because continuing the argument would only feed harm. A compassionate heart is not measured by how much mistreatment it can absorb. It is measured by whether it can remain human without abandoning wisdom. There is also a hidden spiritual error inside superficial politeness. You can use the right words and still make someone feel beneath you. You can perform courtesy without offering presents. This is why the golden rule Jesus taught is more demanding than etiquette. Treating others as you would want to be treated requires imagination. It asks you to step outside your own urgency long enough to remember that the person in front of you also has a morning, a fear, a history, and a limit. The stranger may be asking for something you should not give. Seeing their humanity does not mean pretending their behavior is acceptable. It means you do not reduce their entire worth to the worst part of the encounter. There is a difference between saying, this behavior is not acceptable, and communicating, you are nothing. One protects a boundary, the other attacks identity, and the line between them is often carried by tone. That is why the person you speak to may remember your tone longer than your explanation. At around the same time Grace began noticing her hurry, she also began practicing one small pause. Before answering, she would ask, what does dignity require here? Dignity. That question changed ordinary moments. When a volunteer made a mistake at church, she corrected the mistake privately instead of embarrassing him in front of the team. When her sister called during a deadline, Grace said, I cannot talk now, but I can call you tonight, instead of answering with a resentful, half-listening voice. When a man in a parking lot asked for money and she did not feel safe, she kept her distance, said no clearly, and continued walking without insulting him. She simply stopped treating every limit as a reason to become cold. That is an important distinction. You can protect yourself without training your heart to hate. And now we reach one of the deepest truths in this entire message. The most spiritual conversation of your day may contain no prayer, no Bible verse, and no religious language at all. It may be the moment someone expected to be humiliated and received correction with respect. It may be the moment someone expected to be ignored and realized you had seen them. It may be the moment someone prepared for your anger and heard calm honesty instead. But something spiritual takes place because your behavior finally agrees with what your mouth says you believe. Sometimes your response to another person becomes a quiet answer before God. This is not because the other person is God. It is because every response is shaping your heart. Contempt practiced in small moments does not stay small. Neither does mercy. The heart becomes fluent in whatever language it speaks most often. If you repeatedly use power to humiliate, humiliation becomes natural. If you repeatedly use fear to avoid boundaries, resentment becomes natural. If you repeatedly pause, tell the truth, and preserve dignity, compassion becomes more available, even under pressure. Faith becomes visible when dignity costs you something. Maybe it costs the chance to embarrass someone who embarrassed you. Maybe it costs the approval of a person who wanted access you could not safely give. The cost is not always dramatic, but it is real. Several weeks later, Grace encountered a similar moment. A different person, in a different place, under circumstances that looked almost identical. Grace was leaving a medical office when an elderly man near the entrance asked whether she knew which bus stopped on the next street. The old reflex appeared. Answer quickly, turn away, keep moving. But this time she noticed it. She said, "I'm not sure, but there's a schedule posted over there. Let me look with you for a moment." The man thanked her and began telling her that he had recently stopped driving. Grace listened for less than a minute. Then she said, "I'm sorry you've had to make that change. I need to go now, but I hope the bus comes soon." Nothing extraordinary happened, but she left with peace because she had neither abandoned her responsibility nor erased the man's humanity. That is often what growth looks like, a different response in a familiar kind of moment. You do not need a grand stage to practice the teachings of Jesus. You need enough humility to notice when pride is speaking. You need enough courage to repair a moment without turning repair into self-punishment. And you need enough wisdom to know that compassion and access are not the same thing. Perhaps there is an encounter you remember right now. Do not turn this memory into a weapon against yourself. Ask whether repair is possible. A simple apology may be enough. "I was frustrated, but the way I spoke to you was wrong. I needed to say no, but I did not need to say it like that. You did make a mistake, but I should not have embarrassed you." Notice what these apologies do not say. They do not pretend the other person was right about everything. They take responsibility for your part. That is freedom. You are not responsible for controlling the entire encounter. You are responsible for what you bring into it. And when repair is not possible, you can still let the memory educate your next response. God does not need your kindness to be dramatic in order for it to be sincere. A no spoken without contempt can matter. The final test is not how gentle you are with people you already love. It is who you become when kindness offers you no reward. When the person cannot repay you. When being respectful feels less satisfying than winning. After an encounter, you can ask a few honest questions. Did I preserve this person's dignity? Did my hurry make me act as if I were more important? Was I firm without becoming cruel? Was I trying to look kind, or was I acting from love? Would I have used the same tone if this person had more power? Did fear make me say yes when wisdom required no? Is there something I should repair? These questions are not a courtroom. They are a mirror. You are not trying to prove that you are a perfect person. You are learning to recognize the direction of your heart. Spiritual maturity is not the absence of failure. It is a growing willingness to see clearly, respond truthfully, and return to mercy without hiding. The person in front of you may be wrong. They may be difficult. They may not deserve access to your life. They may require distance. But their difficult behavior does not need to decide the kind of person you become in response. You can speak truth without making humiliation your goal. You can forgive without restoring trust that has not been rebuilt. That is a heart refusing to let another person's brokenness choose its language. Maybe you have been waiting for a great opportunity to live your faith. But your next opportunity may be small. It may be hidden in the tone you use when someone makes a mistake, in the patience you offer for 10 more seconds, in the decision not to embarrass someone when you easily could, in the courage to place a limit without contempt, in the willingness to notice the person everyone else passes by. Being kind does not mean opening your life to everyone. It does not mean carrying every problem. It means refusing to let hurry, power, frustration, or fear destroy your ability to recognize the human being in front of you. You do not need to live in shame over the moments you missed. Repair what you can. Learn from what you cannot repair. Then become more awake in the next ordinary encounter. You may not receive a message from heaven in every conversation, but every conversation can reveal how deeply the words of Jesus have taken root in your heart. If this is your prayer, write in the comments, "God, make my heart kind and wise." Subscribe to Nazarene Code for biblical wisdom on faith, discernment, compassion, healthy boundaries, and the teachings of Jesus applied to real life.